today we're just gonna dwell on a few items which we see in verse 5 to 9, and I will just be saying them out, and then we discuss about it. The first point we would want to dwell on is how anger results, or at least resulted in death, from verses 5 and 6. If you could just repeat verse 5 and 6.
But for Cain and his offering he had no regard. So Cain was very angry, and his face fell. The Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry, and why has your face fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must rule over it."
Yep. So I checked the definition of anger from the dictionary, and it said a strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, or hostility. And I think there's so many things which can come out of people who have anger, or somebody who's angry. Oftentimes that do deadly things. What are some of the things that come out from us when we are angry?
Swear words. And road rage.
Oh yeah, road rage.
In extreme examples, people kill each other. But
which is actually what happened in this passage.
Yeah. Oh, abuse is one. People get angry at someone, like a spouse or a child, and then they might go overboard and actually hit them.
But another interesting thing is in Ephesians chapter 4 verse 26, the Bible allows us to be angry, even though it says, "Do not let the sun go down on your anger."
So it's not like the actual feeling is sin, but the actions we might take when we dwell on the feeling.
And I guess it obviously becomes sin when you dwell upon it.
I just saw in verse 5 it says Cain was very angry and his face fell. Then the Lord asks, "Why did your face fallen?" Or "Why is your face fallen?" And then later, it says that God's face would be hidden from Cain because of his sin. And it's almost like the ground has a face to see the blood, because the ground is swallowing the blood. So it's interesting, because I think that is a little bit of an insight maybe into more of the shame side of it, where Cain was ashamed, like he didn't have pride in what he had done. And then he tried to fix his pride by himself and do something that would restore his face to him. But in doing so, he dishonored God and brought separation in his relationship with God. Yeah, Cain was angry and his face fell. Why is your face fallen? So Cain tries to fix his face being fallen, and in him trying to fix it, the end result is that God turns his face away from him. Or at least that's what Cain says, that God's face will be hidden from him.
Okay.
So Cain was trying to fix his shame on his own, but he wasn't able to. Instead of just losing his pride, he actually lost that close relationship he had with God. Sorry, I know that was a few verses ahead of what we were supposed to.
No, that's it. I mean, because actually my next point was going to be God notices all our feelings and emotional states. Feelings are things which are inside. Anger, Cain's anger was inside, even though the face did show, but the feeling itself was inside. God was able to notice that. And I think it's very comforting to know that God knows everything that we are going through.
Yeah.
It's, for example, in this period we are in, when most people are struggling with this period of the pandemic, but God knows exactly how we're feeling.
And I think we have a choice to talk to God about those feelings and allow God to have access to those angry parts of our hearts or those sad parts of our hearts. Or we can close those off and try to fix them ourselves, and it usually makes it worse when we try to fix those emotions by ourselves instead of actually talking to God about it and going through it. Whether you're pretending like you don't have those feelings or just bottling them up inside.
Yeah, I think oftentimes if we have negative feelings, God will warn us to not take further steps. And we see that even in the example of Cain, that God warned Cain not to go with what he was going to do, but he did not listen. And in our case, we have the Bible, which gives us instruction. And like we've already said about Ephesians 4 verse 26, which says, do not let the sun go down on your anger. And God is actually warning you that if you continue to be angry about something, then you're simply looking for
anger
trouble.
is interesting too, because love is so important to God. The Bible talks about love so many times, and anger is almost the opposite of love. Maybe it's not exactly the opposite, but it's very different than love. And so if we have anger, we usually don't have love for someone at the same time. Maybe I should ask it as a question. If we have anger, do you think we can love someone at the same time?
I do not know. Have you been angry with me before? Have you ever unloved me before? Unless if you have unloved me, you can say that.
No, I haven't. But I feel like when I get angry at you, it feels different than other people that I'm like really angry at. Anyways, I guess you're right that I disagree with that statement I just made.
I say that I don't know, because honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
One of the commentaries I was reading, it said this statement: there is no angry, envious, or fretful look that escapes God. He knows everything.
I thought you were going somewhere different with that, because also there's no angry, fretful, was the other word annoying? Envious. Anyways, when God looks at us, like, he doesn't have any anger or fret or upsetness about the sin in our life because of Jesus. So the sin itself might be displeasing to God, but we are pleasing to God because of Jesus. So even though, like, we can have all these emotions in our heart, we can still come to God with them, talk to him, even if we do actually sin towards the other person.
The third thing I was going to look at, it was one sin will usually give birth to another, because Cain had failed to give the offering which pleased God, and instead of sorting that out, he became angry, which was the next step, and then it moved even further to him killing his brother. After Cain killed Abel and God asks him, where is his brother? He denies knowing where he is. That's actually lying. And his denial is, it's as if he thought God would never find out, you know. And I've seen a couple of funny videos of young children maybe they were eating something in the kitchen, and then the parent comes in and their whole mouth is full of food, and the parent asks, "Did you eat this?" And the child is like, "No," and they have that serious face, and yet it's very obvious that they were doing that. That's almost like what Cain was doing here. Let's read James chapter 1 verse 15.
Then, after desire is conceived, it gives birth to sin, and when it is full grown, gives birth to death.
And that's what happened with Cain. Desire, sin, and death.
Yeah, literally.
It's interesting we never get to hear Adam and Eve's responses to Cain's death. You would think, yeah, it's just interesting that it's the first death, it's their child, and nothing was recorded about how they felt about Cain dying. Because if you read the Bible, in some verses you hear of people crying because somebody had died. Jesus even wept when Lazarus died.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the end of chapter 4 is a little bit, right? Adam has sex with his wife, with Eve, to have another son to replace Abel.
Yeah, but they never say how they felt about Cain dying.
What's the name of Enosh? Let's see. What does Enosh mean?
No, the next one was Seth.
Oh, Seth?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, where did I get Seth? Oh, the next son after Seth was Enosh.
There it is. God has appointed for me another offspring instead of Abel, right here.
Why didn't I read that? Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's not their feelings, but I feel like that shows at least like sadness about losing Abel.
Nah, in comparison to the other verses in the Bible, it doesn't.
They had a lot to fit into Genesis.
They had a lot to fit in the Gospels that Jesus did, and they still found the shortest verse to simply say Jesus wept.
I don't know if Adam is as important as Jesus. Just kidding. I do know. Adam is not as important as Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I was just thinking because this was the first death, and they were the parents. Yeah, but anyway, it's not even important. Even if they had written that, oh, Eve cried for 7 days, she was just weeping, it would not have been important to us in any way. All right, so we've come to the end of this section. I was just playing a Heart of Worship. So that's going to be our song suggestion for the week.
That's a good one.
If you just search for Heart of Worship, I think it was by Michael W. Smith. I don't know if he was the original person who wrote it, though, but he has a good version of it. So.
Oh, sweetheart, that even relates to the passage. Because Cain was worshiping God, but really his worship was about himself instead of about God. And the song is all about coming back to the heart of worship, which is your relationship with God, individually and as a community.
Oh, yes. That's true.